everybody, and welcome back to the Off-Farm Income Podcast. Thank you for joining us here for episode number 789. Well, today we are going to talk about the transition from dairy to beef cattle, as it's just been tough on a lot of dairy farmers around the country for years now. And we're going to be speaking with a young man who's been in the midst of that throughout his entire college career in southern Louisiana. It's never a state I think about when I think about dairy, but obviously there's going to be dairies in that region as well. Everybody needs milk and milk products, dairy products. And Gus Bardwell is going to come on and talk to us all about that. We'll get it started for you right now. Joining me today is Gus Bardwell, and he is coming to us from North Shore Community College, where he is studying diesel technology, diesel mechanics, and he is a former FFA student from Ponchatoula High School in Ponchatoula, Louisiana, where he earned a gold proficiency award in dairy production at the national level. Gus, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for coming on today.
Thank you for having me.
You bet. I'm thrilled to speak with you and thrilled to find out what you've been doing. I'd love to start off by just asking you a few questions about you so our audience can get to know you. Would that be all right?
Yes, sir.
All right. Well, how old are you now?
I'm 19.
Okay. Now, when you are not at school, when you're at home, are you on a farm or are you in town or something kind of in the middle of those two?
I'm on a farm. We have a dairy farm, which is slowly, unfortunately, going out of business. Just the business for it really isn't in South Louisiana anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So we're slowly coming out of dairy and going more into a beef cow-calf operation.
Okay, so you're in the midst of a transition.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, how long has this farm been in your family? Is it new with your folks, or is it something that's been there for a while?
It's been in my family since 1902, whenever my great-grandparents moved from New Orleans to here.
Okay.
And from there, it's just developed. The biggest it's been was about 300 head of Holstein cows.
Okay. Did you say since 1902?
Yes, sir.
Oh, wow. So well over a century farm at this point.
Yes, sir.
Oh, that's really cool. That's quite a legacy. And so, yeah, I mean, the dairy industry is a rough one, and it has been for a few years. So I can understand making that transition. I'm always curious, when you hear about milking cows, they're so sensitive to everything in terms of the production you get out of them. And being in southern Louisiana with all the insects and the heat and the humidity and things like that, do you find yourselves not getting the production out of your cows, not getting the milk weights as you might see in other parts of the nation?
It is a little bit more of a struggle for us as it is in other parts. I know as other parts of the states and all that, it does get muddy, but it gets real muddy down here in South Louisiana. So sometimes it's a struggle keeping our pastures with good grass and all in them. So we do have to supplement a lot with hay and more feed during the winter times.
Gotcha. Yeah, those cows, they want to be out on that pasture, but they're probably pugging it down pretty bad when it's muddy, and it'll tear up a pasture pretty quick.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, interesting. Okay. Well, now, how long have you been involved in the FFA?
I got involved my freshman year, which was 2015.
Okay.
Whenever I got into high school, and had been in it all through high school.
Okay. Why did you want to join? Why did you want to be part of the organization?
I was always into agriculture, being raised on the farm. And whenever I was in grade school, I went to a private school where it wasn't offered. Mm-hmm. And I was in 4-H a little bit in my 7th, 8th grade year. And whenever I got into high school and they had the program, I was real eager to join, and it's what I wanted to do.
Was there any particular part about it that made you eager to join?
Not specifically, mainly just the people that's in it, more people with the same interests as me, and just being able to learn more about agriculture, learn more things that I haven't known, and get to meet new people.
Yeah, it's kind of cool to be able to get started learning about what it is you want to do and what you like right there in high school rather than having to wait for college.
Yes, sir.
Very cool. Well, obviously it worked out. You were in there for 4 years. You found yourself as a gold proficiency winner. So that's great. That's a really significant accomplishment. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah, you bet. Well, let's do this, Gus. I would love to acknowledge who your FFA advisor or FFA advisors had been throughout high school. Would you mind telling us who they were?
Yes, sir. It started off as Bradley Coleman, which I know many people know through the FFA. He was with us for 3 years, and then unfortunately he had to move to Florida. And after that, we got Maggie Klein, who has been an excellent FFA advisor, and I know she's one of them people that I could just call up anytime I had a question or needed something, and she'd be there for me.
Well, that is great. What a great way to describe your advisor, because I know that's got to be true. And thank you very much for acknowledging both of them. Gus, I want to take a moment to acknowledge some great sponsors we have on our show here. I'm going to start off with Powder River Livestock Handling Equipment. I just cannot sing the praises of Powder River enough. I'm just the finest in squeeze chutes, calf tables, runways, alleyways, panels, sweep tubs, whatever you need for your large livestock handling needs. Powder River has it, and they started out here in the West, which I always love to remind people of, with some of the craziest range cattle you can work. And they designed equipment that can hold those animals. They can reduce the stress as much as possible and reduce the chance for injury for both the handler and the livestock. And I'll tell you what, if they can work on those cattle, they can certainly work on yours. So let your local farm and ranch retailer know you'd like to see Powder River in their yard so you can buy that Powder River equipment, and check out what they have to offer you at powderriver.com. And then, of course, I want to mention Lacrosse Footwear, everybody. You can find them at lacrossefootwear.com. Just a great sponsor. What a historical company. I love being affiliated with a company with this history, all the way back to the 19th century, then up through World War II, helping to outfit soldiers with the equipment they needed. Just a great, great company. We use the Alpha Range boots right here on our farm in Idaho. It doesn't matter if it's summer and I'm irrigating, or the winter out here in the mud or the snow or the ice, or all three at certain times. It seems like I've always got the Alpha Range boots on, and I love to talk about them during our FFA episodes because Lacrosse is so proud to support the FFA by annually sponsoring 15 scholarships along with 100 jackets as part of the Give the Gift of Blue program. So we hope that you will pay that back by going over to lacrossefootwear.com, finding what it is you need, and then slipping a pair on your feet. Thank you so much, everybody. All right. Well, Gus, you've put some lacrosse boots on your feet before.
Yes, sir. Yes, and I love them.
Well, thank you for saying that. I know that a good rubber boot is a huge necessity on a dairy, but the conditions you were describing earlier with all the mud, I mean, there's just no question about it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you for mentioning them, and let's do this. I want to talk about your supervised agricultural experience. So can you tell us what you had been doing for that?
Yes, sir. So as I mentioned, we have a dairy farm, and so I did dairy production as my SAE, and it just consisted of mainly during the summer baling hay and keeping up with all of our hay production and forage production, and making sure that in the spring all of our calves are calving and everything's hitting the ground good, making sure everything's healthy, and feeding every day, making sure that everything's got the necessary nutrients that they need, being that we have both dairy and beef cows. So,
yeah,
of course, they get separate rations of feed. And just the typical farm duties that you would see on most every farm.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, when it comes to a dairy farm, like what out here in the West where I'm at, you see dairy farms that they've got a lot of cattle, but they've got a lot of crop ground as well. Where you're at in Louisiana, are you guys farming to produce feed for your cows, or do you purchase that from off your farm?
No, sir. We purchase it from our local co-op.
Okay.
We just, unfortunately, in the area that we're in, just don't have enough ground to be able to produce our own crop. And with that being said, we do have our own hay. We have enough people that we know around here. We have about 300 acres of hay fields throughout our town.
Okay.
That we cut and bale.
So, that's another interesting thing as we compare our regions here. I can remember I did an internship selling ag chemicals where I live now when I was in college. I didn't go to college where I live now, but coincidentally, I did an internship here. And I can remember back then we'd get about 3 cuttings of hay a year. That was pretty good. Now I'm seeing people get 5 and 6 cuttings a year where we're at, which we've got a great climate for it because once it gets warm enough to grow the hay, we don't get a whole lot of rain. We irrigate so we can control, for the most part, when there's water out there on the hay, and it keeps us in some really good hay. But where you're at in Louisiana, how difficult is it to be able to farm hay and then to get it dried so you can bale it and it doesn't just mold out on you?
Well, it's actually flipped for us where you said that y'all are getting 5 to 6 cuttings a year now.
Uh-huh.
Here, about 5, 6 years back, we had a couple good years where we got 4 or 5 cuttings off of our fields.
Okay.
Whereas last year and the year before, we barely got our second cutting finished.
And
just because of all the rain and it being so wet and our land so low that it's hard for it to dry out.
Okay, and that's what I was curious about. I was guessing that you might get, you're much warmer than we are. And but I was guessing you might actually get less cuttings even though you're warmer just because of all the precipitation. So that's true.
Yeah.
But that can vary depending on what kind of year you have, it sounds like.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Interesting. Now, are you growing alfalfa down there, or is it grass hay, or is it something different?
It's just Bahia hay and Bahia and a little bit of Bermuda.
Okay. Interesting stuff. Yeah, that would be a challenge. I always wonder about that, trying to get that hay dried out in those climates. Interesting how that all works. Well, so did you do any milking on your dairy, or I shouldn't say did you, do you?
Yes, sir. Yeah, we do. And whenever I started my SAE, we were right around 50 head of dairy cows.
Uh-huh.
And over the last 4 years, being that milk prices have gone down and feed prices steady going up, we've unfortunately had to decrease, and we're only down to about 10 dairy cows right now.
And so as you're transitioning from dairy to beef, what does your beef business look like? Is it a cow-calf type of operation? Are you doing some...
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah, we have a cow-calf operation, and then on the side, we also sell calves for freezer. So we'll sell a whole calf to an individual.
Okay. Got it. And are you finishing them out on your place before you sell them?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And you're doing that direct. That's a great business, or a great little niche to do with your cattle.
Yes, sir. Everybody's wanting to support the local farmers these days, and so that just kind of, it helps us out that people want to be able to do that.
Absolutely.
And so it's good that we're able to do that for people.
That is great. Where you're located, are you close to a larger metropolitan area?
We're about 45 minutes north of New Orleans and about 45 minutes east of Baton Rouge.
Okay, so you've got, if you want, you've got a lot of people that you could market your beef to.
Yes, sir.
Okay, very good. Well, tell me about diesel mechanic. So you're going to school and you're studying this. How did you choose that?
My uncle that owns the portion of the dairy farm, his son was actually a diesel mechanic for 8 years. And I've been hanging out with him my whole life and working on all the farm equipment with him. And whenever he'd go to work, he'd come back and tell me about all the big machines that he worked on. And I've just always liked doing it, liked having a wrench and a ratchet in my hand, turning bolts. So it's what I took an interest in.
Very cool. So do you have aspirations of working on some of that big equipment yourself, or are you hoping to be able to come back to the farm and use your skills to work on your own equipment there on the farm?
I've really been kind of interested in working on large machines, big dozers, track hoes, stuff like that. So that's probably what I would end up doing.
Very cool. So is that something like you would find, would you work for a dealer, or would you work for like a large company that runs that type of equipment that needs somebody to service it in the field?
That's still what I've kind of been deciding on. I still have a year and a half left of school, so I haven't completely made up my mind whether I want to be at a dealership or go work for a rental company.
Gotcha. So are you just getting started in your school? Is this your first year out of high school, first year in college?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So when they're starting you off in a program like this, do they gauge what you already know, or does everybody start off at the same spot?
No, everybody starts off at the same spot. We start off with safety and then go into basic engines and then sprout from there.
So some people are going to know some stuff and they're going to relearn it, and other people, they're getting caught up, I guess, until you all get to the same level.
Yes, sir.
Okay, interesting. So
yes, sir.
How much have you learned so far? So you've been did you start last September or last August?
Last August, yes, sir.
Last August. So
so far I've gone through engines basics 1 and 2, so I can tear down a complete diesel engine and put it all back together.
Okay.
And from there I've taken a little bit of hydraulics class, and right now I'm in electrical, which I'm sure people that know a little bit about mechanics is electrical's taking over, and it's whooping my butt right now.
Well, I'm sure I would have had my butt whooped a long time ago, so don't feel bad. I would have been destroyed in safety. So yeah, I would have already been knocked out. But yeah, electrical. Oh my goodness, I can't think of anything more frustrating than trying to fix a short on a trailer or something like that. I cannot imagine the electrical you've got to deal with in the machinery you're talking about.
Yes, sir.
Oh man. Okay. Really cool. Well, now, did you get any of this paid for? Are there any scholarships or any grants or anything like that have helped you out with getting this certificate?
I was eligible for TOPS going into school, and then through FFA, I was able to get a $500 scholarship too.
Oh, good. Okay. And I said certificate, but I shouldn't have made that assumption. When you're done, will it be a certification, or will it be like an associate's degree? What will it be?
It'll be like a certification saying that I've made it through the school and that I have all the knowledge to be able to work in a shop.
Okay.
And maybe not start off right at the bottom, just changing oil. They could put me at a little bit higher position.
Sure. Gotcha. Now, have you ever heard of that, the Mike Rowe Foundation?
Say that one more time.
Mike Rowe Foundation. Have you heard of that? Or Mike Rowe Works?
I've heard of it, but I haven't really researched much of it. But I've heard people mention it.
Yeah, the only reason I'm asking is I know they've got scholarships for students who are going into the trades like what you're doing. But that's about that's the extent of my knowledge of it, and that's why I was asking you that. I'm always curious if I'd love to interview somebody who's taken advantage of that, so I always like to ask. But that's another resource out there. Who knows? Maybe you don't need that. Maybe it would be helpful. I don't know. But if it's helpful, hopefully it helps. Well, this is really cool.
I'll definitely have to look into it.
Yeah, check that out. At the very least, he's entertaining, so you could check out some of his stuff. But yeah, very cool, Gus. I'm excited for you. And so, as you go out and you want to do this work, do you have aspirations of coming back and working on the farm, or do you think that's not going to be a possibility?
It might be possible. I'm sure that the farm. Right now, we're looking for more land kind of north of us where there's not quite so many people.
Mm-hmm.
And so hopefully one day I'll be able to come back and maybe buy a section of land and put some cows on it and start doing it myself too.
Sure. And do you plan on staying in Louisiana when you go out and start your career, or is the horizon kind of wide open for you?
It's kind of open for me. I'd like to stay closer to home. I've always been somebody that doesn't like to travel away from home for too long, but I wouldn't mind traveling a little ways for a little while.
Yeah, it's all very exciting. Awesome, Gus. Well, hey, I want to ask your advice before we sign off, just for another FFA student out there who is, they're considering whether or not to join and be part of the FFA, and they're kind of wondering what they're going to get out of it. What advice would you have for them in terms of how it can transition you from coming in as a freshman to leaving as a senior?
I would definitely say if you're looking to meet new people that have the same interests as you, this is a great organization. I've met countless people that have been such a great impact on my life that I wouldn't trade for the world.
Awesome. Couldn't say it better, Gus. Thank you so much for coming on today and sharing this with us.
Thank y'all.
Well, thank you for joining us, everybody. Really appreciated you being here. Appreciate Gus Bardwell. And as always, enjoy your journey to the ultimate lifestyle business, agriculture.